Hey, what's going on? Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Headliners. For those of Headliner Nation returning, thanks so much for coming back for another episode. For anybody new, my name is Kyle Richardson. Thanks for tuning into this episode. And please, if you like the content, subscribe to the channel today. Let us know in the comments below that you're new to Headliner Nation, and we will welcome you warmly. Going to be talking some free agency here. Day 2 in the books at this point. Still a lot of big name players out there, but talking some fantasy football value for some of the guys that drafted today. So those guys being over there on the other side of the screen. You don't see any defensive players. We'll talk defensive players all at once at another point. But right now, just talking strictly fantasy football. Might do an IDP video later on, but just going to get through these guys right now. Going to start at the very top as well. Teddy Bridgewater deciding to stick with the New Orleans Saints. Apparently, he had an offer for more money through the Miami Dolphins, but he said, you know what, I'm going to stay here in New Orleans. And I really like that for Teddy Bridgewater. But you know who I like it more for? I like it for Michael Thomas. So a lot of questions I get, like in Dynasty Leagues about Michael Thomas is, oh, should we be worried about Drew Brees? Now that Teddy Bridgewater is basically committed to the Saints and said, look, I'm going to stay here. I want to take over as quarterback when Drew Brees is done. That's great for Michael Thomas owners because obviously Teddy Bridgewater isn't going to be Drew Brees, but he's going to be familiar with the system. He's going to be familiar with these players. This is a guy that when he takes over, it's going to be a smooth transition. It's not going to be finding the next rookie quarterback, needing to work through that, or signing some big name free agent only for that to flop, something like that happening. No, you're getting a guy that's been in the organization for a while. So I like this for the New Orleans Saints. I like this for Teddy Bridgewater. I like this for the other offensive players there in New Orleans as well. That type of a transition is key to making sure everyone continues to maximize their value after your quarterback moves on. Up next, the Buffalo Bills are making some moves. They're looking better. They're looking better. Now, they went ahead and added John Brown and Cole Beasley. And I have to say, before you start yelling at me, okay, I've never been a big Josh Allen fan. Now, he looked great at the end of last season. Very athletic, running all over the place. But he still has a lot of concerns with his accuracy and just his throwing overall. We know he's got the cannon. We know he can throw the ball over the mountains, it seems like Uncle Rico over there. But, with Josh Allen, he still has a lot to work on. He has to get better. The Bills are surrounding him with guys to help that. They've upgraded the offensive line. They've added a tight end. They've got a couple of wide receivers now. So things are going to be in place for Josh Allen. But I like John Brown more than I like Cole Beasley. So John Brown, I think this is a guy that could potentially be a wide receiver 3, a guy that you would have, own, and keep on your roster. I think there's going to be some big plays, some big touchdowns this year. For Cole Beasley, though, I couldn't be more upset with the landing spot because Josh Allen on those intermediate throws, he's just not good yet. There's going to be, if he is significantly progressed from last season to 2019, then there's a shot. But if not, more than likely, Cole Beasley is going to be a guy on the waiver wire. Zay Jones, initially, I was hoping he would move inside, but adding Cole Beasley, Zay Jones more than likely is also going to be left on the waiver wire. And I don't love it. I don't love it. Robert Foster as well. I think John Brown takes away from what Robert Foster was going to be able to do. So Robert Foster and John Brown, I think they have some wide receiver 3 potential. Cole Beasley, Zay Jones, I'm leaving on waiver wires for the time being. Cordarrelle Patterson is signing with the Chicago Bears, and I like this as being possibly a flex play every once in a while. We'll see what he does. I think he's too similar to what they might try to do with Trey Cohen to really emphasize him being, that gadget player, end arounds, different things out of the backfield. We'll see what they do with Jordan Howard. We'll see what happens with Cohen and all those things. For right now, for Patterson, I am keeping an eye on him because he has that potential for Matt Nagy to really utilize him in some very cool ways, to be able to put him out wide, put him in the backfield, move him around, do a lot of different things. So I'm not jumping to draft him right away in 2019, but he is a guy that I will have on my watch list to see what happens. happens, if any injuries occur, or if he looks like he could be getting some more playing time, then I will take a look at that point. Or we need to see at the beginning of the season how they plan on utilizing him. I'm not going to jump completely on board with Patterson yet, but I am intrigued. We'll say that. I'm intrigued by what they could do with him there. Latavius Murray also headed to New Orleans, and I love that for a couple of different reasons. Number one, now Dalvin Cook doesn't have to worry about a guy stealing touches from him as much. So Dalvin Cook is the guy now in Minnesota. They are trusting him with that backfield. I love that because I'm a huge Dalvin Cook fan. So that being said, what does this do for Latavius Murray? So I think he is going to see a little bit of a reduced role that Mark Ingram had. So I think he's going to do a lot of the same things that Mark Ingram did. This signals to me that the New Orleans Saints don't want to make Alvin Kamara an every down back, which is fine because the way he's been utilized so far has been all right. I think Alvin Kamara still takes a step forward, though, because Murray isn't going to be what Ingram was. Now, could Murray potentially be a guy that you still roster and use as like a running back 3 or a flex play in certain weeks? Maybe. I'm not going to jump in and say that he's like a running back 1, running back 2 that Mark Ingram was. I do think he'd be significantly less than that, but I think he could still end up helping enough to have some value for owners, especially Alvin Kamara owners. You might want to handcuff him. If you play in deeper leagues, you might want to own him as well, because he's a guy that every once in a while could, in a good matchup, give you more than enough help to be in your starting lineup. Devante Parker, and I know we talk. If you are a part of Headliner Nation, you've watched our channel before, you know we have the hashtags Never Crabtree, hashtag Never Funchess, which might be changing a little bit. But I have always had one too, hashtag Never Parker, because I've never been a Parker believer. I've never been a Parker fan. But he does decide to stick in Miami now. And I would possibly like this more if their quarterback situation was settled, but I don't know what's going to happen at quarterback. They're more than likely taking somebody in the draft at this point. I would be very surprised if they didn't use their first round pick on a quarterback. And there's been some talk about Tyrod Taylor, which I was a Taylor fan last season, but he didn't really do anything last season either. So I wouldn't love that for Devante Parker either. More than likely in redraft leagues, you're leaving him on waivers for right now. You're not drafting him when 2019 comes around. In dynasty leagues, you probably still own him, so you're not going to be dropping him because there is always a chance that potential shows through. And finally, the last person listed on this, Roger Saffold, okay? Not like any of the other guys that we've talked about at this point, but here's the reason I bring him up, because Saffold was one of the top-rated run-blocking offensive linemen by Pro Football Focus last year. And if you've watched our channel before, a few weeks back when we did our very early 2019 running back rankings, I put Derrick Henry as my running back 12. And I caught a little bit of grief for it. A lot of people didn't agree with me. But I said at that time that I feel like Tennessee is going to have a renewed commitment to the run game, that they're going to lean on Derrick Henry, that they're going to try to take some of that pressure off Marcus Mariota, and it's going to be about pounding the ball on the ground and then giving opportunities to Mariota when they look good, okay? Not forcing the ball in the air. This signing right here reaffirms what I said several weeks ago. I love Derrick Henry for 2019. I hated him for 2018. If you follow me on Twitter, which if you haven't yet, at krich1532, would appreciate if you did that. But if you follow me on Twitter, you know that last season I told everyone, don't buy the hype. Stay away from Derrick Henry. I don't trust them. Then they signed Deion Lewis, and then all hell breaks loose in that backfield at that point. That's not going to happen again. Derrick Henry is the guy. He's the running back 1. Lots of upside this year. Good offensive line. Really good offensive line now. And if Marcus Mariota can just be decent, if he can just hit open receivers and just do enough, Derrick Henry is in for a running back 1 season 100%. And that's why I listed Saffold on here, is because I want to remind you to go out and get him right now in dynasty leagues if you haven't. And in redraft leagues, definitely invest in him as your running back 2 if given the potential. Because more than likely, that's where his ADP will be in that area. Speaking of ADP, make sure you always check out one of our sponsors, Fantasy Football Calculator. If you check out them, they have a lot of great content, mock drafts, ADP, stuff like that. We get all of our ADP data from there, so make sure you head over to their website and check it out as well. So that's just a quick breakdown here of day 2. Appreciate everybody tuning in. A lot more content to come. Le'Veon Bell still unsigned. Mark Ingram sounds like he's going to be headed to Baltimore. Nothing done at this point yet. Tevin Coleman, Tyrell Williams, lots of different things, lots of different guys still to come. So make sure you're staying tuned right here to the Fantasy Headliners. We'll be getting all that news out to you as quickly as possible. We'll keep it flowing as we do like here. Let it flow. And again, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We appreciate it. Thanks so much, and we'll catch you on the next episode.